Welcome, everyone.
Just can't even.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fortis Live. This is take 15, 16, 17. I don't know. Anyhow, with that being said, I am Kevin, the host of Fortis Live and owner of Fortis Defense. And today with me, I have my wife, guest speaker, Angela. Angela, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Angela Parham. I am co-owner of Fortis Defense and not responsible for anything my husband does.
Very good, very good, guys. I do apologize. I know if you're watching this again, and we're probably losing people that follow the page because they're constantly getting notifications that we're going live. Anyhow, so regardless if this broadcast cuts out, we're going to continue going, and then I will post this whole show on YouTube and share it to Facebook. So, with that being said, we're having a lot of technical difficulties. Technology just sucks. So, anyhow, what we're talking about today, I'm going to try to get through this a whole lot quicker. I'm shaking. I'm just so aggravated. Anyhow, so we're talking about, in light of last week's show, we talked about church security. We had multiple calls from people that would ask us to go a little further with the church security program and talk about it a little bit more. We had our guest speaker, George Dollar, with TOC Kydex on with us. Shout out to George Dollar. He's local, and you can see him on Facebook under TOC Kydex. Also stands for Throwed Off Customs Kydex, I think, something like that. Anyhow, with that being said, shout out George. Thank you very much for being with us. We're honored to have you here. So with that being said, with our church security program, I did not reinvent the wheel. What I've done, I was called by our church to do a security program, and what I have done, I've never done a church security program, so I've done a lot of other security programs, a lot of in my military days. So with that being said, I had to research on how to present something more towards civilians as far as developing a security program where you're basically watching people. So and try not to come off like just straight military on them. So I did a lot of research on it. So I've taken things from different programs. So I cannot take credit for 100% of this, nor would I ever. So anyhow, on the program, what I've done is I've developed a 12-step program. The cliche there. Anyhow, a 12-step program, and with that 12-step program, what I'm going to try to do is, and this probably won't be every week, but because like I said, we try to have when we first introduced our show, I was talking about we try to have a guest speaker on every other Thursday. So we had one last Thursday. So this Thursday, kind of like a guest speaker, but the typical host, Michael's not here. He's working a real job. So.
You got me.
I'm here with my lovely, beautiful wife, which I couldn't be more proud of. I love her. Anyhow, so thank you to all one person that's watching us. You've probably tuned in about 5 times to watch this, only to be disappointed about 5-10 minutes into it. So anyhow, with this program, it's a 12-step program. I'm going to try to talk about a couple parts per program. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it will take quite a while to get through the whole thing. So we're going to try to break it up over multiple series. Anyhow, that being said, what we're going to talk about today is part 1 and part 2 of the program. I've got my whole. This is an entire church security program right here. I'm rather proud of it, if I do say so myself. But anyhow, today we're going to talk about introduction to church security and the 4 parts that go with it. We're going to talk about the theology, the theology of a church security program, team vision, mission statement, and team culture. So,
Okay, so we need to say that although we're talking about church security, the basic outline of this can be formed to work for organizations or businesses just that are soft targets or need to feel more secure.
Very true. Very true. So this is a live broadcast, as you've seen the last 15 takes we've done.
I think it was 16.
Could have been 17. Anyhow, with that being said, if there is something that, if there's something that you'd like to talk about, a question you'd like to ask on it, please ask. If we can answer it now, we will. If not, we'll save it for the next show. Yeah. Theology of church. Theology.
I'm telling you, we should just start playing cards. I just think it's done. We should.
Y'all, you should have seen her. She was playing Hangman by herself a while ago. Theology of a church security program. Okay. What is a theology of church security? If you would talk to some people in some churches, there are some congregations that when you present the whole topic of church security, okay, a lot of times people will say that we don't need a security program here because God will protect us. God looks over his people. While that is true, let me put my eyes back up on my head. While that is true, if you think of in terms of the days of Christ, or even not even really, I say really that far back, but I guess technically it would be sheep in a field. They were required to have shepherds to protect the sheep. So what I would say back to those people is this. Sheep are required to have shepherds. They were required to have shepherds. If you think about it in today's term, calves hit the ground. If you run cows, calves hit the ground. Modern day shepherds for cattle are
Donkeys, alpacas,
yeah, donkeys. That's one of the main thing that that people look for to shepherd their.
Well, to protect, to secure,
to secure their babies that are on the ground. Okay, it's what we do. It's what a lot of other people do. So, anyhow, that's what I would say back to that. While God does look over us, He does protect His flock. He does require, that someone put in place that physically maintains the security. So, in a nutshell, that's pretty much the theology of a church security program. So, not a real whole lot to it. Team vision. When you form a program, the team has to have its vision. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, then why are you there? You're just hanging out. Of course, you got to have a vision, right? A purpose.
So with
can you read your writing?
Sometimes it's hard to read my writing because I kind of write like a doctor. Before vision, let's talk about a mission statement. Before you can develop a team vision, I think one of the most important things to put together is a mission statement for your group. Okay, because if your group don't know what they're doing, if they do not know what they're doing, then what's the whole point of them being there? People are just kind of walking around aimlessly and stuff like that. So one of the important things that you do have to have for your team is a mission statement. So basically, the mission statement that I've come up with for the church security team that we're putting together as a security team. It can be something as simple as this. As a security team member, we exist to allow the church to accomplish its Great Commission. And
simple to the point.
Yeah, it's simple to the point. The Great Commission of a church is to feed you, is to feed the people. Not necessarily I'm talking about food, but to feed the Holy Spirit to people.
Well, that's not going to happen if they're not safe.
Right. So, used to you could walk into a church and that was a lot of people's safe place. You could walk into a church and you could feel secure among everybody. You didn't have to worry about people coming and doing bad things. We just live in a world today where that's changed. So
immensely, and it's sad, but when you go in and you sit down, when I go into church, I sit down. I don't know about everybody else, but when I sit down, my back's to the door.
Yeah.
My back's to the main entrance.
Because that's a place you should feel safe.
Yeah, but typically, and I don't, Well, you're usually with me, and like, so I usually, you're my, you know, my situation awareness guy. But I don't, my back is to the door, and I'm looking at the preacher. And I don't think that I think enough about how vulnerable that situation is because I still do feel comfortable and I probably need to think more outside the box. I mean, it's like when we go to a restaurant. We go to a restaurant, I don't want to sit with my back to the door. I know
Right.
you don't.
No.
So it's still for me as an implication of safety in church. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that it's a real problem. I mean, how many times have you seen churches being shot up and that's just nobody thought they would be ever harmed.
Yeah. And, just, as I mentioned, I was called basically to put a security team together for our church. Um, I'm not going to just, throw our church name out there because I think while it can be a deterrent, for people to know that there's a security team, it can also be a deterrent for new people joining a church, because, they feel, well, maybe that's just not a safe place for me to go. So anyhow, it's not, I don't think necessarily your church security team has to be black ops sort of team.
That's discouraging.
I think people should know that, you've got a security team somewhat, but, just kind of looking around, you wouldn't, I guess, typically see people standing and, just like you would be on, the president or a foreign dignitary or something like that. So, anyhow, that's something we'll talk about later on. So, a mission statement, just to wrap that up, that is something easy, quick, basic, just something to the point. That way, that your team knows what their mission is. The second thing is vision. What's the vision of the team? What's the vision of your team? So, in vision, you would need something like, what are your, what's the word that I'm looking for? What are your near goals? What are your mid goals? And what are your far goals for your team? What do you want your team to look like? What do you want your team to be? So, it's what the team should look like in the future. What are we going to? What's the goals? Like I said, near and far. So, when you start off with a security team, you may not be starting off with something that is, looks like something straight out of, dignitary support team or presidential security team or something like that. You may be starting off with something basic, but you have something that you want to eventually evolve into. Kind of deal. So it's just something to think about. When what the vision is, what the vision is of your team. Yeah. Team culture. When I think about team culture, I think about you don't want your team to look like someone that you don't want people to walk into a church and see people basically sitting there in security gear. Okay, you want your team culture to be. You want it to look like if the security needs to be found, they can be found, but they don't stand out like a sore thumb. You want your team to be personable to people, but if you want them to be found, they can be found, just to blend in.
Oh, I think you have to have the ability to blend in. I mean,
Yeah.
because there are still some people who do not want to, they don't want to feel like they're being guarded. I mean, there's, especially with the older generation, in my opinion, they definitely don't want to feel that way. Um, I, it just changes the environment. I
Right.
mean, I think they have to blend. Like you said, you have to be able to reach out to them and find them. I mean, because the purpose is to make you feel secure, but their job is also to make sure that they diffuse something.
Right.
So it's not just to secure something in the moment, it's to keep it from happening. So, I mean, you want to be able to find somebody, but you also want them post it or put in a position to where they can cut something off before it happens.
Yeah. So, like I said, you don't want them, and a very good point. You don't want them to, stick out like a sore thumb. You want them to be personal with people, but at the same time, in the back of their mind, they're thinking, how they would stop an invasion from coming into church. That's that's
Bad word.
bad word. Yeah, maybe. Anyhow, um, so the team culture, you want them to be discreet, so they don't, you know, make your church look bad. You don't want them to, like I said, you're not going to have them sitting there in just straight out security gear, kind of deal, because it's not the look. It's not the look you're going for. I would say.
Oh, I agree. It's not necessary.
Um, hmm. Step two. Step two of the 12-step process. Building the security team. So let's talk about building the security team. Things that you'd want to think about when you're forming your security team is the organizational structure, team selection, such as like vetting and what have you. Let's talk about law enforcement officers or LEOs, and we'll wrap that up with talking about team size. So, first, when you're putting your team together, okay, and this is something that I've seen all too often, is when you put a call out for some type of person or whatever, a lot of times you'll have someone step up that they're pounding their chest, they're standing straight up. Look, here's my resume. This is who I am. I am the baddest person you'll ever see. I'm the best at everything. Blah blah blah. They're basically sitting there beating their chest. In my experience, and I don't know how it's been with anything that you've done in the past, but in my experience, those people are the worst ones.
I agree.
That's not when you're forming your team. That's that type of person is not Don't just when you're forming your team, don't just reach out and grab everybody that volunteers. Now, you may hurt some feelings. It may come down to you're telling people, hey, no, we just we don't have. I don't want to say tell them you don't have room for them, but I mean, how would you go about saying?
I am not the right person to ask that.
Okay.
I'm not, because I think sometimes I lack a filter, but I do think it's your choice of your members is very, very important, because that sets the tone of the whole team. If you've got people who are overselling themselves and they have the wrong attitude, then the whole purpose is going to get lost, because you want them to blend. You want them to give a feeling of security. You don't want them to drive a negative vibe. Like, it's
right.
It's just not something that they
It can become a cancer.
Yeah, and it if you the whole point of having a good security team is not feeling like you need it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you feel safe, that's great. But if somebody feeds off the drama and the thrill of it, and they're not calm and have the right personality, then they're working against your mission.
Yeah. So when you have those type of people that step up, I mean, it. Let's see. Last week, when we talked about this a little bit, George, one of the things that he mentioned, and he had a very good point. Everybody that wants to join the team can play an important role. Now, when you're putting your team together, not everybody on your team has to be a shooter. So it's and I really wasn't thinking of it like that when we were talking about it. I was basically thinking, man, anybody that you have on your team needs to be a shooter. But after he brought that up, not all team members on a security team have to be shooters. You do have people that can play other important roles that we'll get to on a different show. But
medical.
Yeah, I mean you've got all kind of people that we'll go through that plays an important role on a security team. But again, you don't always want to step up or just start accepting everybody that wants to be on a security team, because you could have some people that hinder it more than a team's helping. I feel, and I have seen that planning different military programs and stuff like that. So
I
while
think
their
that,
intentions may be pure
yeah,
and good, just the whole.
I think that rolls back into the culture though. If you pick the wrong people, it messes up
Yeah.
the culture that you want. But yeah,
Right.
I agree. It's the personality of the people really have a lot to do, not just their skill.
So the next thing on your selecting your team members, moving into selecting the team members, I think that, and this isn't, I don't necessarily know if this will be popular among all churches, but when you're selecting your team members, vetting is a huge, and I touched on this last week, but I think vetting is a huge, vetting your team members, the people that you choose on your team, and not only your team, but the church staff. Period. And let me before I get fully into that, let me tell you why. I'm going to tell you this to tell you that here in a second. I think all too often, when people think about forming a church security team, they're thinking about an outside threat, and not necessarily a church security team, but any type of security team. They're thinking about an outside threat coming in on the flock. Okay,
Nobody's thinking about the inside threat.
not everybody thinks about an inside threat. Okay, this is where your vetting comes in. And when I say inside threat, I'm thinking predators within your group of people, whatever the group may be, sexual predators within the church.
Oh, it's not just predators. It's people think about how many people have we've seen over the years that have either came in and caused a mass shooting, or people who have even murderers.
Right.
They fit in at some point. I
Yeah.
mean, I hate to. I mean, I'm not trying to doubt, members of churches or businesses or. Okay, I mean, I've worked in a mini office where I knew somebody was a ticking time bomb all the time.
Right.
So I just think that it's not just predators. It's so the inside threat could be those people who appear to be perfectly calm and normal with no issues on the surface, but I think that's an excellent point, because you don't know, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know someone until you know them. The whole deal with predators. There's every time something like that happens, someone says, "I never thought old Mister whatever would ever, that he would ever been like that," and in reality, this person's been like this
Their whole life.
their whole life. So predators hide very well. Predators know how to manipulate the system. You're well experienced, and I hate to say that, but you're well experienced predators, whether it be a child predator or an adult predator. They've done it. They've done it multiple times, and they know where they can skirt the lines to where they can't be arrested for it, or whatever the case may be. These people blend in. They're a wolf in sheep's clothing. So not only when you're forming your team should you think about an outsider threat, but you should always keep in mind the inside threat. Your insider threat. And like I said, it could be a predator, could be, no matter, it could
Be a
any
shooter. It could be anything.
and this is something that we'll talk about later on, in another show, about trying to recognize these people and different reading materials and stuff like that. That'll help you with this. But so this brings me to vetting. I kind of got off on a little tangent there, but so it brings me to vetting your people. So when one of the things when you're forming a church security team, vetting them is very important. So I feel that when you're taking people in, basically when you're taking their application in for the team, not only do you need to know what their skills are, but you should know what their past is. And the immediate security team members, and I feel as well the staff that deals with children, that deals with the elderly, that deals with all kind of people. These people should have background checks run on them. Okay.
Vulnerability.
Yeah. Anybody.
People of vulnerability.
Yeah. If you have someone that deals with somebody that has vulnerability, that are vulnerable,
Yeah. Children, seniors,
Yeah, absolutely.
mentally challenged.
A background check. You have to conduct a background check. Now that may not be something that's popular with everybody in the church. They may feel that their privacy is being, what's the word I'm looking to? They're
Invaded.
invaded. Yeah, that they feel their privacy is being invaded. But in my opinion, if they want to step up and do, be on a security team, because your job as a security team is not only to defend an outsider threat, but also protect your people from within as well. So
That's always an ugly subject.
it is.
I think it's kind of makes people a little punchy.
It does.
And the people that are more concerned about it may need your attention for one reason or other.
Yeah, if you have somebody that just straight up objects to a security background check, and this isn't a background check to like you're running their credit card, running their credit or anything like that. Like, I mean, who cares what their credit is? But you're looking to find out if
felonies,
if
arrests,
they've got
sexually,
stuff like that. Now, this is kind of a hard topic, because it's a hard topic to talk about, because it's an uncomfortable topic, because you don't always want, if you have somebody in your church that has had an issue in the past, whether it be they were convicted of, charged with a felony for sexual assault of a minor or something like that, God didn't, Jesus didn't walk with the hoity-toities. Jesus walked with the sinners. Okay. So you don't want to keep those people out of a church, but you also don't want those people put in vulnerable positions to where they have access to what they've done in the past.
You're negligible if you do,
right,
and something happens. So that's another problem there. But I think that's probably up for as a different discussion.
Yeah. So part of vetting, and something, I'll even go a little bit further and say this, and this is something I totally stand behind. Again, not only should you do a background check on your staff and on your security team, but I fully stand behind anybody that comes into your congregation, anybody that, that visits, anybody that, all members of the church should, and in my opinion, should be checked against a registry. Not a background check, but a registry, just to.
You can get out of hand with a background check.
Well, yeah, I'm not talking about going as far.
I know.
What are you saying?
Is
there something I should know, Angela?
You checked me before you married me.
Oh gosh,
he did. It is true. I didn't even know about it. Just saying.
Okay, so. And I didn't. Well, I guess I told you. It wasn't too long after we were married, that I told you. Okay, so
yes.
Here she goes. I feel I must explain myself.
I do think. Hold on, focus. I do think that that it would be wise, in theory, it would be wise to check against the register.
Right.
Now, with that being said, a register is not black and white. The sexual predator registry is not necessarily black and white.
Right.
There are situations where people are placed on that registry, and it was due to an 18-year-old dating a 17-year-old. Just a example. So I don't think that you run the background check and you make a decision, or I don't think you run against the register and you make a decision. You have to ask questions.
Right.
I mean, we all make mistakes. We all have things happen to us that are out of our control. I feel like, I think you should look, but I don't think you judge on what's there. I think you have to take the time to communicate.
Absolutely, and she brought up a very good point. When not saying all people know. We know multiple people that have ended up in a bad situation. They've a guy's maybe dated his girlfriend for years, for
Started in high school,
started. I mean,
junior
we've
high.
known some that started in junior high, going through high school. And they may have always been a grade or two off. Whatever the case may be. The boy graduates. The boy turns 18. All of a sudden, the parents don't like it. They file charges on him. Now there's things that are in place now that help with that. I think I don't remember who was bringing it up, who said something to me about it.
I think
The Jack and Jill.
George mentioned that,
It
didn't
may
he?
have been George. Something called and I haven't looked into this. So the Jack and Jill law policy, whatever it is, I don't know, but it kind of it takes a lot of that off. So anyhow, but I know in the past, just from some of the people that we know, the boy turns 18, parents all of a sudden don't like it, go and file charges.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, they just got charged and convicted.
And their name is forever in history written down.
Yeah, they were just convicted of rape of a minor. So, and they've been dating their whole basically their whole life. So
Their dating life, yeah.
yeah, and all of a sudden everything they do, they have to put that they're a felon, and
Yeah.
they have to register as a sex offender.
It's misfortunate. The registry has a lot of benefits, and it's a wonderful thing, but I think that it's not black and white.
Yeah, no, and it's not black and white. And if something does come up, that may be that may be a case where you talk to that person, because you need to know who's in your church.
You also need to know who's in your business.
Yeah, who's in your
I mean,
business.
we keep saying church security, church team, but that's because that's the topic. That's how this brought this subject up to Kevin. So where we say church, you can easily replace it with your type of business, and you should maybe start thinking along those lines. It doesn't mean you have to have a tactical team in your business, but you should have some sort of steps in place if there's an
Right.
aggressive action in your office. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So with that being said, that's how I feel about it. That should be, and that's whoever your head of security is, or or you may even designate somebody in your security team to run the checks and to verify people on your member roll. So once again, let me just make sure that you do understand that there's a dividing line. I don't think everybody in your congregation should have a straight up background check on them. But I do feel every member or person that's visited, that's put their name in, hey, they're a new visitor, that's put their name in the hat or whatever the case may be, they should all be checked against a registry. Just Google their name or look their name up on the federal registry and see if anything comes up. If it don't, that's great. You never even need to say anything to the person. But now, as far as the your staff or your security members, absolutely full background check on them. And if something comes up, ask them about it. Hey, you want to be a part of this team? We need to make sure that we police our own before we start policing people on the outside. So anyhow, so that's what I've got to say about background checks. It's not an easy topic for churches to do, because they feel it may be alienating or pushing somebody away. But if you don't vet them, to me, you're responsible if something happens. You've got somebody working security for you, and all of a sudden that person just popped up. Something happened with them, with a child or whatever the case, while they're on your team or a member of your staff. How do you defend that in court? Hey, we hired them because we knew them. They're good, but we're on the good old buddy system here. So, to me, it's a liability issue. It protects you, protects the people, and it also protects your church. Legally. So,
Well, it's a shame, but it is a truth. So
yeah.
so that's vetting, right?
That's that. Yeah. So, next thing under your team selection is the character expectations. Good character. You want the person to be of good character. You don't want them to all of a sudden take their position if they're a part of your security team. You don't want them to take the position that they're now a position of authority. You want them to be personally, you want them to be of good character. A stand-up person, not somebody that is just iffy. I feel, um, you know,
Calm and cool, I think, would be the first.
yeah, calm, cool, and collected.
Hot-headed does not work with the security team.
That's right,
And
especially
that's what bouncers do. That's
right.
not what a security team does.
Especially if that person is one of your shooters, and I don't want to, and shooters is the only way I know of saying that. But
By shooters, you mean people that are carrying guns
Yeah.
within the security team?
right, yes. Let me clarify that. When I refer to them as shooters, that's what I'm getting at is that's your security team personnel that are armed. Okay. So with that character, you don't want them to be, like she said, hot-headed. You don't want them sitting up there just pounding their chest and looking at somebody just giving them the 1,000-yard stare off. You want them to be of good character, personable. Able to talk to somebody, but at the same time, like I said earlier, they're still keeping in mind how they would defend the church. In case something crazy kicked off. So
Well, I think that comes back to training, though. You can't mold out of clay what you want if you're starting with the bad ingredients to begin with. That doesn't mean somebody's a bad person. It just means they're not fit for the job.
right. So and here's something I wrote down that I got from another program, and it was very well said. I don't remember the program I got it off of, but quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry.
Yeah, it's perfect.
That's that's the
That would be you unless your electronics aren't working.
yeah. It's not about me right now. Okay.
Okay.
Let's not talk about that.
All right.
So anyhow, again, you want somebody quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. You don't want people looking around creeping everybody out. And all too often you do have security people that do that because they give them the 1,000-yard stare.
There has to be a confidence, though.
They give them the people's eye.
You have to be confident, though, in your position in order not to look overbearing or creepy.
Right. So professional character, you want somebody that understands what they're looking for is, somebody coming into the church that, if it's summertime, they're coming in with a trench coat or, somebody walking in with a bag. Somebody with a hoodie on that their hood is over their face. They're trying to kind of mask themselves. And I know today, shoot, everyone's masking themselves. And I mean, you're even allowed to walk into banks with masks on now.
I know, isn't that nuts?
I mean, it's
every time I see
wild.
a mandatory mask sign at a bank, I remember back when you couldn't wear a hoodie in a bank.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So, just to reiterate what I said earlier, professionally. Character, you're looking for somebody. You're looking for humility. You're looking for someone that takes their responsible or their role responsibly. Is a big deal. You're going to need them to blend. They need to blend in. Not stand out. But like I said earlier, if somebody in the congregation is looking for a security team member, they can find them, but otherwise they would blend in. You wouldn't notice them, just standing around.
Yeah, what is it? An outsider,
right?
Wouldn't be able to pick them out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, professional expectations. You want. And this kind of happens with. It was kind of a. It happens in all church, not just churches, but it happens in places of business and stuff as well. You have people that volunteer. They're gung ho. They're whoo about it. Want to jump into something and hey, I can take this mission on. I can do this, and then over time, they fizzle out on it. Okay, so when you're looking for people in your team, you're looking for somebody that is first and foremost committed. All right, so you want them committed. You need to come up with what kind of schedule you're going to run them on. Whether it's going to be when you're getting the size of your team, how many people's going to run it, how many people you need for certain services, because you don't want to burn them out. If you start burning people out, then, that's where they start fizzling out because you still want them to be able to come to church or, whatever the case may be. And you still want them to be fed. You want them to get their meal from church. but at the same time, take their role responsibly, and produce what you've got them there for. Um, Again, talking about the size, it's going to depend on the size of your church. You know, uh, 3 to 4 people per service, depending on, again, it goes back to how large your church is. Smaller churches, um, I think if I were to come down to a skeleton crew, if there was only 2 people, if I was only allowed to have 2 people on a security team, I think the first person, first and foremost, the most important person, uh, security detail I would have in the church is someone securing the kids. That's the most important. And then the second person would be, at the front of the church or wherever, the majority of the people comes in that can, you know keep their eye on certain types of people coming in, or I won't say certain types, but people that are just looking suspect. Um, so that is. I think that buzzer means somebody's just pulled in here. But you want them to, you want to be able to look for that. Are you going to step out and see who that is? Okay. Anyhow, so continuing on, you want somebody, on your security team, part of your security team, you're going to want them to come through, and part of their expectation is, you want somebody to come early enough to do a sweep of the church. In Winona, Texas, that was one of the big things. The pastor came into the church, and long story short, somebody had broken in the church the night before, and was basically hiding out in the church, and unfortunately, some things happened. The next day. So, but we're not going to get into all that stuff. So, you want they need to be vigilant. Situational awareness. Situational awareness is a huge deal. So again, you don't want somebody on your team that's, giving everybody the 1,000-yard stare, but you do want them to be situationally aware, to know what they're looking for, not just, focused on one thing, but they need to be able to keep their head on a swivel is what we call it. So, able to keep their head on a swivel. Again, you're the shepherd of the flock. So you're looking for that wolf coming in. You're looking for that lone wolf coming in. You're looking for, the person acting suspect. So, trained. Part of your professional standards should be, you conduct training every so often. And that training can range from, different things. First of all, if they're on your team and they're shooters, they're a shooter on your team, you're going to want to know what their capabilities are. You're not somebody being a shooter on your team is a huge deal. Because I think one of the things that a lot of people think about in security teams is, a lot of people go to church, they're armed. Or a lot of people are in a business, they're armed, and if something kicks off, what do you do when everybody starts pulling their guns out and starts shooting crossfire? I mean, just think about that.
Okay, so that's my head wants to pop off when you say that, because in my mind I'm seeing everybody who carries, they're gonna pull their weapon and want to do their best to.
Everybody wants to be the hero.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this goes back to the mentality of your security team, because they need to be calm and have the ability to diffuse the situation or stop the situation. And whether it be church members or members of or employees in a business, there has to be, you're not only training your security team, because their job is their job, right? The people that are participating, their job is not to be part of the security team. Their part is not to become a target.
Right.
So you're not only training your security team to react properly, you're going to have to train your members of your church, your employees, whomever, whatever scenario this is, you're going to have to train them to not be a target. They have to know how to react. And one of those things is, you don't pull your gun if you're not supposed to be shooting.
Well, and here's my thing with that. Drawing your gun should be step Z. If
Yeah.
if you've got somebody that's quick to draw, as their step A, man, that's not who you. That's not the you need. Again, taking you back to calm, cool, and collective. Man,
Wait,
they've
unless fires
well, sure,
shots have already been fired,
but I mean, yeah, you jump straight to Z, because you're in defense of your flock. But if you're drawing your weapon, before you know before anything really kicks off, then man, you've missed step.
a lot of opportunity. Yeah.
You've missed every step from between A and Z.
Well, what I meant when I said if there is a shooter, all right, if there is an active shooter, can you hear me?
Yeah,
If
you got to pull it up and talk into it better. You're pretty tall, so you can't do that. But you gotta let it. You can pull it up. I'll let you pull it up. There you go.
okay, if you do have an active shooter situation, I just in my mind the biggest catastrophe is the the people that are involved in the scenario, not the people who are there to try to control, diffuse, or stop the scenario, being the security team or the people that have been put in place with this, and this is their purpose. What scares me is the people that are carrying a weapon, which I think everybody should be able to carry a weapon if you choose. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I think you need to know how to react to a situation properly.
Right.
So it's not about drawing your weapon if you're in the middle of the scenario. It's not, because that makes you a target. It makes you a target. It puts you in a situation to where if you're not trained in a scenario like this, you may shoot a friendly. Mm-hmm. Your gun may be taken away from you, and you are either killed, like we've seen recently, but you could be injured. I think it's, we put so much thought into how to pick a security team, and it seems like just as much training needs, because you were discussing skill, like who's going to shoot and da da da. The same skill needs to be applied to how to not become a target to the people who are in the middle of the chaos.
Right.
And that's just scary to me, because people don't know how to react, because you never know what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's definitely something you have to take in consideration.
I mean, it's almost as much training in those training in the people that are attending as it is the people who are trying to control the scenario. I got way off course there?
No. I mean, it's I mean, it's part of the professional expectations. When not only are you teaching your people, but you have to, in a way, be able to teach the congregation, or the other, everybody else around. Hey, something kicks off. Not everybody draw their guns, start shooting, or not everybody, I mean, because you got this is Texas, so you've got a lot of mama bears out there that's armed, and the first sign of trouble, boom, I mean they twist off. So
I do think that maybe in the future it would be a good topic to talk about, to maybe talk to those who choose to carry, and do a little subject coverage of knowing how to respond to scenarios. And if you have your weapon on you, how do you respond? Do you respond? Because I've read articles, I've seen situations to where if they would not have pulled their gun, they never would have been injured.
Right.
You have to know when to comply. And you said earlier, everybody always wants to be the hero. Mm-hmm. I mean, whether it's through a conscious effort to be the hero, or just a reaction because they feel like they need to do something.
Right.
But I think that you should probably hit on that somewhere in the future, because everybody that has a weapon needs to really learn how to react to different situations.
And going back to the people on a team, like I said earlier, not everybody has to be shooters. You can have people that's skilled in martial arts, and we'll get further into the pastor protector later in a different show. But Somebody that's skilled in martial arts, that's very good with hand-to-hand combatives. Because you may be in a tight situation where you know you've got your reactionary gap is not there to be able to draw a weapon and engage a target. So part of the professional expectations of a team is it's good to have when you're putting people on your team, it's good to have if you have the ability to have somebody with combatives skills to be a part, and then also somebody else professional wise is people that are good with electronics. Security. Not only is it good to have your security team in place, but you should also have your outward security cameras. That's a lot of times that's your first line of defense. Security cameras, being able to see what's around, being able to recall if something does happen in the church. Having video evidence of that. So, anyhow, the code.
Are we at a good stopping part? Good.
No, I've got a couple, just a few more things. I know we're going kind of long on this, but
Well, it's just a lot of information. I don't want to.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up here pretty soon. But a tactical resume. Again, whenever you're pulling your people in, try to get a resume from them. Find out what they're good at. Run them through some type of stress shooting, shoot no shoot scenarios, anything like that. When you're vetting your people. Use of law enforcement officers. I think this is something that's very important, and we'll just touch on it. But I think for a lot of churches, just having an officer there is a deterrence, is a huge deterrence of somebody coming in. Whether you've got a long drive up to your church, or your church is right there beside a road. Just the presence of a police car. That may be something you want to incorporate into your team. If you're able to if you have somebody law enforcement there that's able to be there in uniform, or if you can just reach out to the local sheriff's department or the local city police department and ask if they can just donate a car for a couple of hours. Just a free car. Just something that looks like there is an officer present. That's something that's very good. So that's something you want to consider also. And then the last thing we'll talk about just real quick is the size of your team, and this goes back to, it's going to depend on how large your church is, how many people you want on your team, but you do want to have the ability to rotate your people through, because you don't want them to get burnt out, because like I mentioned earlier, you don't want people to fizzle out, to basically start reneging on their obligation that they've signed up for a security team, and now all of a sudden you're just burning them out. They're not getting fed by the church, and they're tired of doing it. It's not cool to them
Feeling
anymore,
used and abused.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to come up with the size of your team, just keep that in mind, that you want people to have off Sundays. But part of your team, you do want them to have a commitment that there's so many Sundays, Sundays a month that you want them to work, and they do need to be obligated. They're obligated, and they do need to be committed to that. So, with that being said, that's the first two steps of the program that I've put together. And I know we've kind of bounced around on some of it just a little bit, but if you do have any questions, you're looking at forming a security team with your church, you can feel free to ask me, kind of ask us what our thoughts on it are. I've got some opinions definitely on it, but
He's got lots of opinions.
I have lots of opinions, but anyhow, so do you have anything?
Yeah.
Yep.
I wanted to mention that. But as far as putting together some sort of security program for your business, your church, or anything, we can help with that. So it's one of our services. Kevin's very good at it. So feel free to reach out to us.
Well, like I said, this will be I said earlier, this is our first church security program to put together, but I am well versed in.
I feel so tall, like I can't.
I've definitely put multiple other security programs together, throughout my career in the military. So,
Are you ignoring that I'm tall?
very knowledgeable of that. But anyhow, but I do think the program that we have is a very good program. And if you'd like help developing a program for your church, I'm more than willing to offer that as one of the things that we'll offer here at Fortis, going forward. So, anything else?
Yes, Michael. He's an instructor here. He is going to. He and Kevin are putting together a women's defense class, which is, I guess you would say, combative because it's a fancy word.
Well, more or less a self-defense.
Yes, combative. Yeah.
Combative sounds so
Tough. Yeah, Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a women's self-defense course, and I'm hoping that they'll get that out there and available by the end of February. If you are a realtor, if you work the night shift, if you're a single mom, if you work for like a retailer or you make bank runs, you do the bank drop, anything like that puts you, or other than just normal, life, the dangers of normal life right now. But this would be an excellent course to take. I will be taking it, so you're in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah.
With that, just to jump on board with what she's saying, that will be a very, very good course. We have a very good instructor that'll be teaching that. It's basically the Cov McGraw stuff. Other courses, we had our basic land nav course last week. Went very well. A lot of people liked it. We've got our advanced course coming up this weekend, and we're looking forward to it. We're very excited about it. What's something cool, we've actually got some people coming from California that found us, and they're coming to flying in to take the course. So with that being said, if you want to jump in that course before it starts, let us know, and we can get that worked out for you for sure. But on that course, we're actually going to be combining the Advanced 1 and Advanced 2, the day course and the night course together. So anyhow, that's all I've got. Anything else?
I'm just happy to be here. It took a lot to get through this.
Yes, it did. Anyhow, guys, thank y'all so much for joining us.
With all of our technical difficulties.
With all of our technical difficulties, and this will be, everything will be ironed out the further we get in this whole live cast. This is only our first. I think this is only our third one to do.
It is the third.
Anyhow, we are excited about it, and I do think it's pretty freaking cool.
As long as he's not mad with technology.
Yeah, as long as everything's working right. So, all right, guys. Once again, this is streamed to Twitch. It's streamed to Facebook Live. It's not streamed to YouTube just yet. We are still working on our followers on YouTube. We have to have 1,000. Actually, somebody said something how we could get around that a couple shows ago. But this will be posted on YouTube. I will share the YouTube link to our Facebook page. So. If you want to go back and watch it, pause it and whatever like that, feel free to do so. If you need to get a hold of us, 903-331-2542, sales@fortisdefense.com, or on Facebook. Get a hold of us however you need to. So we look forward to our next show, and I think we'll post what the topic's going to be before next Thursday. So we're getting out of here just under an hour, a few seconds under an hour. Thank you guys for sticking with us, and we'll see y'all next show. Thanks a lot. See if I can get this right here, and boom.